We need to consider more futures than we're considering right now. I think everybody's mental model is either AI never improves past today because we're not good at exponential change and we're not good at seeing that. But I also think a lot of people are also worried about the other case, which is like machine God takes over the world, which we obviously should worry about. But there's a lot of things in between those two worlds that are profoundly changing what we do, right? What if it's 2 times better? What if it's 10 times better?
Hi, I'm Reid Hoffman.
And I'm Aria Finger.
We want to know what happens if, in the future, everything breaks humanity's way.
In our first season, we spoke with visionaries across many fields, from climate science to criminal justice and from entertainment to education. For this special mini-series, we're speaking with expert builders and skilled users of artificial intelligence. They use hardware, software, and their own creativity to help individuals use AI to better their personal, everyday lives.
These conversations also feature another kind of guest, AI. Whether it's Inflection's Pi or OpenAI's GPT-4, each episode will include an AI-generated element to spark discussion. You can find these editions down in the show notes.
In each episode, we seek out the brightest version of the future and learn what it takes to get there.
This is possible. Ethan Mollick is an associate professor at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, where he studies and teaches innovation and entrepreneurship and also examines the effects of artificial intelligence on work and education. He also leads Wharton Interactive, an effort to democratize education using games, simulations, and AI. Here's our conversation with Ethan Mollick.
Ethan, thank you so much for being here today. It's so lovely to see you again. And we have a Slack channel at work that is all about everything AI. So every day there's, 10, 20, 30. What are the latest new AI things of the day? And your Twitter is basically every other post. So my question for you is how did you get here? How did you become the guy who is at the center of AI, experimenting and playing with it? Would love to hear that story.
So, it's actually kind of a weird story, right? I'm AI adjacent, but not really an AI person, right? So I back in grad school, I did a lot of work at the Media Lab with the AI group at that point, which is like Marvin Minsky, Push Singh, a bunch of people like that, where I wasn't the technical person. I was sort of like the business school representative there, trying to communicate AI to other people. And I've sort of been around that AI community for a long time. My real passion has been, how do we increase people's ability to learn? How do we increase education through interactive tools? So I've been doing that for a very long time and playing with AI on the side because it's always been promising but not quite there. So I was already assigning my students assignments like cheat with AI from the more primitive GPT-3. And we were kind of in the middle of that cheat with AI assignment when chat came out, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then over the course of the day, like I have a whole series of tweets on it where I'm like, oh my God, this is really interesting. Wait, this is insanely interesting. And then by the next sort of Tuesday, I was teaching my class, and I sort of introduced it to class. By the end of my first entrepreneurship class I was teaching, I had students who were already coding with it and using it. I was like, okay, we've hit a big deal here. So I sort of descended into it sideways from an education and interactivity viewpoint.
One of the things that I appreciate about you being a power user, ChatGPT, GPT-4, Bing, Bard, maybe Pi even, I don't know. I'd be very curious to get your feedback on Pi. Product requests, hopes, designs. What do you think of the current state of the art, and what would move you from 11 out of 10 excited to 20 out of 10 excited?
This is a universal tool. It's available to everybody. And there's so much debate over what happens next and what how much smarter will this get? Well, we've already completely disrupted work and education, but the tools aren't really supporting work and education use. You kind of have to work around it. You kind of have to hack a chatbot to produce an essay for you or do good work for you. And I think that some of this is really about that learning and interface. Like it's a pretty hostile system if you don't know it to start using it. People bounce off of AI very, very quickly for a wide variety of reasons, or get down rabbit holes. And I think, to me, a lot of this is really about how do we build the education to this? How do you get AI to help people use AI better, rather than necessarily even making the tools more advanced for all the good and bad that will do?
I mean, I think that's such a good point. Like the chat interface was such an on-ramp to people using it. Like that form was great. But to your point, the fact that you have to create all of these, here's how to hack the system, here's the special prompt, like that's a problem for getting someone who's new to the system. Especially because, so in this summer arc for Possible, we're talking about not necessarily sort of the sweeping societal changes, but how will AI impact like your daily life? Like, what are you most excited about to see AI transform our daily personal lives?
There's so much there, right? Like this is where the nexus is like both exciting and kind of terrifying, right? Like I tend to, there's a lot of jobs that are really high quality jobs that are, not so much jobs, but bundles of tasks that are under threat. And there's a lot of stuff that, looks really good. From my perspective, entrepreneurship professor, right? This is like the absolute sweet spot because a third of Americans have an idea for a startup and they don't launch them and they don't even do any research. So the idea of having a tutor or somebody push you along, a co-founder of sorts, hugely helpful, right? And then on the other side is an educator. I mean, suddenly we have a tool available in 169 countries that is like the best, education tool we've ever released. And, we have to figure out how to unlock it. So, I mean, I think from a potential democratizing opportunity, right, where we, it's profoundly exciting in that sense.
If you could wave a wand and kind of reorient the general public discourse on AI, what direction would you wave the wand in? What would you try to say, like, more of this, less of this?
So I think that it's hard to say we shouldn't be worried about negative effects because we should. But I think, first of all, we need to consider more futures than we're considering right now. I think everybody's mental model is either AI never improves past today because we're not good at exponential change and we're not good at seeing that. But I also think a lot of people are also worried about the other case, which is like machine God takes over the world, which we obviously should worry about. But there's a lot of things in between those two worlds that are profoundly changing what we do, right? What if it's 2 times better? What if it's 10 times better? Right now, if you're in the top 10% of whatever field or set you're in, you're definitely beating AI and AI can help you, but it's not going to outperform you, right? And that's for, everybody's got something they're really good at. AI is not going to be as good as what you're really good at. That could change pretty quickly with a 2 to 10 times performance. And I think we have to consider that and worry about that piece. And then the other part of the narrative I would change would also be thinking about, the positive cases without being Pollyannish about it or influencery about it. Like people have to think about how does this make their lives better while still worrying about the ways it may make our lives worse. And I think trying to balance those two isn't happening very successfully in the world.
The thing I would add to what you're saying is one part of the thesis that a lot of the worries and the critics have is they kind of say, well, the machines will eventually completely outstrip people and people won't even be able to be in combination. And they kind of use like the chess results as an example of that, which is there was a lacuna period where chess, a machine plus person was better, and now machine's just better. I'm not sure if actually, in fact, that isn't the person plus machine isn't a very long period indeed, and maybe, long from the viewpoint of by the time that changes, the world's so different in so many different cases, we don't really know what it looks like. We can't fully imagine it. It's not like today plus, godlike machines. Even if you say, well, hey, it starts getting a lot better at writing investment memos than I am, and in the raw like if you just said, starting gun, you're going to write an investment memo in an hour, and like it goes, okay, it's better than you. But still, like when you put us together, it's still better, right? And that's the thing that I think that is the future that, like I was doing with Impromptu and you're doing with, all of your various work, including, tweets and podcasts and writing and everything else, is part of that reorientation of the future that I think is so important in the public discourse.
I couldn't agree more. And I also think people underestimate social systems take a long time to change, right? We're not, even if the system is infinitely better, there's still lots of human world pieces that it will not be good at. And not because it's inherently doesn't, like, I think people try and draw arbitrary bright lines. Like it's not going to be good at empathy. It's good at empathy. It's not good at innovation. It's good at innovation, right? That's not really the way to view this, but there are perspectives and differences. And I think you're right. One of the things to realize is other things will have to change before a better AI is enough to change the entire world, right? And you can see it just not that many people are adopting. People are bouncing off this system. There is this idea that we're kind of rushing ahead. And again, that's where I think the emphasizing on the apocalyptic, it either saves us or kills us scenario is undermining how actual technical change works, which is, this is a really fast change. Fast changes are still much slower than technologists think they are. And I agree with you. I think we have to be ready for a world where this change is gradual. Embracing it matters. Embracing your own tools matters. And I think that's a pretty profound point.
So let's take that from the very high level to the very specific. What kind of prompt or sequence of prompts would you suggest for? And I'm going to give all three, but let's answer each three separately. A completely new user of ChatGPT, or pick your favorite AI system.